that the enemy has hit a bit of a wall.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So Gabe, you are one of the biggest mobile advertisers in the space, and you can see from campaigns like that, you put a lot of effort into how you create an image for your company and for your content. Maybe to help people in the room get a better understanding of how you've built the company, can you tell us a little bit about your roots and how Machine Zone got started?
Well, Machine Zone is a real-time technology company. We deal with vast volumes of data that is moving very, very quickly. So we manage everything through data manipulation, essentially. So when we run our games, we're monitoring everything that we do. When we run our marketing, we're monitoring everything that we do. We've brought a lot of financial style of workflow to the games business and to the marketing business. It's a very detail-oriented business, and we've been building out infrastructure to be able to scale out the marketing campaigns like you see for about 5 years now.
Wow. So, the topic of this is about how gaming companies innovate and what other advertisers can learn from some of the things that you do. I mean, you just talked about how data-driven you are and how you're really a real-time infrastructure. How did you even go about building your team in order to set an organization up like that?
Well, early on, we were the first free-to-play developers on iOS. So we started in January 2009. And we clearly saw the trend around 2011 when DNA came over to the United States. And they spent a lot of money, about $7 million in 1 week, which was a fortune at the time, on a game called Zombie Zombie. And it scared the hell out of us. Because we saw what the future of the industry was going to look like. We knew marketing was going to be really important. And we probably overreacted to that, to be honest, because we realized that we're competing in an auction marketplace. When people are buying on Facebook or buying on Google, you have to compete against somebody else who's also making a bid for that same impression. So your intelligence when you're going through that bidding process really matters. It's actually a very daunting task, considering how many bidders you're actually competing against to buy media. So it's a very complex process that we started with a very small team. We just focused on the highest quality networks first. We built out our Facebook and our Google capabilities, and then we went from there. And now we're integrated into 300 different networks, and our marketing team is over 200 people.
Wow. And if you think about the two games that you have, Mobile Strike and Game of War, I mean, these are pretty hardcore games. Yeah. I mean, how have you been able to stay on top, have two games in the top 10 list for more than 3 years running, essentially, with one of them? How have you been able to reach and influence an audience for so long to be able to do that?
Well, when we look at our marketing, you have to think about edges. Like, what is my edge over the marketplace? We track over 400 KPIs when we're doing our marketing. That's a tremendous amount of data that we're looking at to make decisions on where we're going to go spend next. Another big part of it is diversification in your styles of marketing. Are you doing video? Are you doing playable ads, banner ads, full screen ads? I believe we make about 20,000 creatives a week now.
Wow. So
it's a very intense process. And I believe on Facebook we have about 50,000 different campaigns running at any moment. So it's very, very hard to do. There's a lot of different things to manage. But diversification is the most important thing you can do as a marketer, because once again, we're buying media, right? And we're buying media in a very competitive marketplace. So you want to make sure that you're buying video when you need to buy video, and you're buying a banner ad when you need to buy a banner ad. But it's a very difficult and daunting task for most people. But it's important to focus. It's definitely important to focus on where your highest ROIs are. And then once you've kind of mastered wherever you're working, whether it's Facebook is usually where people start on mobile, you move over to the next network and master that one at a time. But unfortunately, it's a very big project because there's about 300 different partners that you should be working with.
So each one of those, you're able to extract a ton of data, and you can use data to make decisions and understand how effective it is and what that ROI is. But with TV, that can be a lot more difficult. But yet, if we just saw here that you've got some really strong investments in your TV advertising. You've hired stars to be in it. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about how do you measure that? How do you measure the effectiveness of actually going out and hiring a celebrity to be a part of that? How important is that?
So when we went to television, we didn't go to television because we were excited about television. We went to television because we had pretty much maxed out the mobile digital market. But what we found is television is actually really bad. Now, most people lose money on TV because it's not trackable. The ratings are questionable whether they're actually correct or not. There's a lot of confusion in the space just in general. And from a technical point of view, it's very immature, the television market. So when you're working in that market, what we found is that while most of your television ads don't really do much, what they do have is a tremendous effect on your mobile digital ads. Because when people see Arnold Schwarzenegger on television and they look down at their Facebook app and they see Arnold Schwarzenegger in a video ad there, they make that emotional connection from what they've seen on TV, and it legitimizes the product in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, it's on TV, it must be a real thing. It's not just another bad mobile game. This must be something that people like. I want to try it out. So what you see is, and this is what the biggest problem is with scale, is every ad network wants to show the highest quality ad. That's what they want. The one that gets the most clicks, the most installs. Television increases the clicks and increases your install rate, which essentially increases your distribution on digital. So ultimately what it does is you spend some money on television, but it dramatically increases your distribution capabilities on mobile phones, which is something that I don't think people realize. So television is a great place to go to once you've pretty much conquered the digital market, but I wouldn't go there first. But it's important to have something people recognize. So putting Arnold Schwarzenegger in a commercial is a good idea. He's very famous.
He's a recognized character.
Japan, right? I mean, Schwarchan in Japan, right? I mean, he's literally, I think he's probably the most famous human on the planet. So you put him on TV, people just love it. And he make great one-liners, cool commercials, and they want to check it out afterwards. And so when they see that, and then they follow up and they see that ad in the Facebook feed afterwards, they think, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And it's a free game. I mean, all we want, you can download it, doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
If you don't like it, that's okay. And we just want everybody to try it.
So IP is very important then. The character being recognizable and how that influences the constituency leads to, greater level of installs. You just announced this past week with Final Fantasy coming out as your new game. You're partnering with
Square Enix.
Square Enix to bring that to life. Talk to me about why you've maybe pivoting away from having content that you've created to something that's globally recognized within the gaming community.
We're going to do everything at once, right? We're going to continue doing what we do on television. We're going to continue what we're doing on mobile, and we're going to partner with probably the most famous RPG brand in video gaming history. So I think if you put those three things together, we could have potentially a very explosive product that people will love around the world. So our distribution capabilities we are by far the best at what we do. We are probably the largest direct response marketer in the world. We're probably the largest, at least single product marketer on mobile in the world. I think if you combine that with something as loved as Final Fantasy, I think we could have something that's competitive with anything Nintendo can put out. So for us, it's maturing as a company and trying to master pretty much all three domains at the same time.
So building a team around being able to market all of that is
it's very hard.
It's difficult in training them and
extremely hard.
So how much do you rely on technology to help drive that versus using your own team?
We build a lot, but it's not really. This is the pain point for everybody here. They're going to go out and market a product. Most ad networks that you work with are very backwards, unfortunately. They'll do things like email in your data, or they'll do a Dropbox link or something like that to try to once a week. It's really backwards. Not everybody's like Facebook. Not everybody's like Google. Most companies have very poor technical infrastructure. But if you want to scale, you should work with everyone. You shouldn't say, well, I don't want to work with you because you don't have the technical capabilities. You shouldn't start with them, because it's painful and expensive and hard to work with them. But ultimately, if you have a really good product that you can get everybody in the world to try, you have to. You don't have a choice. And the technical barrier to do that is tremendous. It's huge. Doing integration with 300 different ad networks that all work differently, because there's no standardization in the marketplace at all. There's zero. Nobody agrees on metrics. Nobody agrees on basically anything. So as a buyer, it's very scary. It's so you go to Facebook because it's like, okay, they've got a power editor, they've got all these things, it makes it easy for me. And you go to Google, you work on YouTube, and then you go to an affiliate marketer, and it's scary because there's a lot of problems in that space. But you can get good traffic out of there. It's possible. You can get cheap traffic out of there. That's not very competitive marketplace in comparison to some of the other ones. It's just very expensive. It's really hard. So the key is focus, and expand as you get good at that, whatever you choose first, which is most likely going to be Facebook or Google. As you get good at that, you say, okay, I need to bring in another person because I need someone else to manage Google. And I need to bring another person so they can manage Twitter. And I need to bring another person so they can manage RTB networks. And as you scale out, if your ROI is coming in, it won't be a problem. It's just a very very laborious process. It's not something that you can do overnight. It's very difficult.
So you're a global organization, though. Your product is all around the world. You're looking to grab players from Korea, Japan, all over Europe.
Everywhere.
Do you hire agencies or do you hire teams locally in order to help you scale, or do you have a central organization that does it all?
As a rule, we don't work with agencies. We have exceptions. The Japanese market is very unique. It's very, the infrastructure and the way that the relationships are set up there is totally different from the rest of the world. So we do work with agencies in Japan, and we find them to be very effective. But in general, agencies don't have your best interest in mind. They work on a percentage of spend. So they want to spend the most. This is my opinion. I'm sure Facebook doesn't share this opinion. But agencies don't really have an advertiser's best interest in mind because they make money on a percentage of spend. So they want to spend as much money as possible because they get 10% of whatever it is that you spend. So they're going to do things that are not necessarily in your best interest, which makes the advertising market very, very difficult. But it's also an opportunity because most people are using third parties to do their buying for them. And most third parties, and I mean 99% of these third parties, are totally incompetent. They have no idea what they're doing. They've got salespeople. They'll reach out to you all day long. You'll get 1 million LinkedIn requests, but they really honestly have no idea what they're doing. And they're certainly not going to do any data integration in with your products because they don't know how to do that. They don't have any data scientists or machine learning or anything really. They have maybe they have some general algorithm, but it pretty much fails 99% of the time. So if you want to scale, then this is either, you can either look at this as a problem or an opportunity. I see it as an opportunity. Most of the market, most of the bidders, and most of the people operating in the space are honestly incompetent. And it's basically because there's not a lot of engineering in this space, and there's not a lot of software in this space in general. There's a lot of salespeople, but it's not as data-driven as people say it is. It's not really that data-driven, unfortunately. So as a company, you're faced with two problems. You can either, well, two opportunities. You can either go work with the agencies and be incredibly frustrated, or you can go build it yourself, which is very hard, very expensive, and very slow. But the end result is once you've done that, you have an incredible edge over the marketplace because this is all auction. This is an auction marketplace. So if you have 400 KPIs and 300 different ad partners and tons of buyers for you to organize and spread your money around correctly so you don't spend too much someplace, you're going to win the auction. And the good news is that the majority of the people aren't capable of doing that. So it's actually a very big opportunity, and it's something that we've taken very seriously for the past couple of years. And I think that's why when people talk to us, they don't know who Machine Zone is. But I say Game of War, it's like, yeah. We're buying 40 billion impressions a month on mobile. 40 billion, and we don't buy in China. Right? So that's about 1.5 billion devices. So basically everybody on the planet is seeing our ad once a day. Right? So it's a big operation. It's very hard to do. But you couldn't go to an agency that could orchestrate what we're doing. It's actually no WPP can't do it. Publicis can't do it. None of these guys can do it. To be honest, they cannot orchestrate what we're doing. Yep. And frankly, they don't have really an interest in doing it because most of their partners don't understand how to compete in the marketplace. So they just take whatever they can get.
So really, it's about having a team that's understanding the data.
Yeah.
And are you changing the product and your game as the data comes in?
You have to look at it as it's free flowing, right? Just because you get good traffic one day doesn't mean you're going to get good traffic the next day. Just because you could have all kinds of things change on you constantly, and that's why I call ourselves a real-time technology company, because we change everything all the time. We make thousands of changes across the organization every single day.
Wow.
Literally every day, because we have to, right? This is an auction. Imagine doing the same thing all the time in an auction market. You'd get crushed, right? So you can't do that. You have to be very, very nimble. And in your startup, that means you have to design from the ground up everything to be changeable. which is a really big technical problem if you think about thin clients, thin servers, real-time analytics, even artificial intelligence in some cases. And you have to monitor all this, your business, as if it's one big thing, and you have to make changes across all of it to make sure that it's still operating at the level that you want to. Most people, how I describe it is, most people when they make their business, they make this really big, heavy thing. They have an idea in their mind of what their product should look like, and it's so heavy. They've already predetermined everything that's going to happen inside of their business. And they make technology that's very rigid. They have a process that's very rigid in general. And they take this big, heavy object, and then they throw it into the ocean, and they hope it floats. And every once in a while, there's a miracle, and your rigid product, and your rigid business, and your rigid practices somehow floats. It just does. It's just floating on the water, and everybody looks at it like it's a miracle, because frankly, it kind of is. Like out of an infinite number of good ideas and an infinite number of bad ideas, you somehow landed on one of the good ones, and now your business is working, and nobody really even kind of knows why. It just looks like a miracle, and you see that on the internet all the time, these miracle businesses. We're not a miracle business. We work extremely hard.
Right.
So we look at it as, we don't know if we're making the right decisions or the wrong decisions, but I do know I'm going to change a lot. I'm going to change everything all the time. And I feel like what we've been able to do as a result of that is create a unique gaming business in the market that is totally different than everybody else's. We don't rely on luck.
Yeah, I mean, a testament to how successful you've been is...
Because we don't rely on luck. We rely on change. And that's a very different approach than I think most software companies make it. I think it's a mistake in general to think that way. Your products and your process should be changing constantly because the world is changing constantly. If you get too married to how things are going to end up, you end up with something you can't change. And if the market's going your direction, and you've seen this in this space a lot, the market can go your direction for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong. What are you going to do about it, right? So that's what I'm constantly thinking about, is like, how are we going to be able to survive the next, Pokemon or whatever asteroid comes your way?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do about it, and how are you going to make sure that you're still moving forward?
It's a great message on innovation and how important it is. The world is dynamic.
Yeah, and I think what's exciting about us in the beginning of next year, we've spent a lot of time working on these real-time infrastructure capabilities. They're huge now. We can process information on an unprecedented scale, and we're going to...
This is outside of games.
This is outside of games. This is everything we do. The heart of our business is this data stream, and think of it as a digital spine for everything, for our entire business. And then we build around that real-time intelligence to make decisions. Those capabilities we're going to be making available to everybody early next year, and I think that it's going to be pretty exciting, because I'm really looking forward to see what people can build when they can literally communicate with hundreds of millions of devices in real time at once.
Yeah, that sounds pretty exciting. Big year for 2017.
Big year.
Final question I'll leave you with then, because we're just about out of time, is how do you build teams around that? So, in terms of how you recruit...
You need one
staff,
expert.
One expert?
You need one expert. Just go out there and find one expert. Look, the reality is, you're the CEO of the company, and you most likely have a product idea. You're not a marketing expert.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You just say, I'm not a marketing expert. You find one marketing expert, that person will find you 10 other people that will be good. The problem is most people don't know what the expert looks like, so they get somebody who builds a team that frankly doesn't know what they're doing. So you really, really need to find one person, and then once you find that person, you can build out your organization, but you really need one very strong person.
Right on. Messages: continue to innovate, surround yourself with experts.
And change quickly.
Giddy up.
Yeah,
Right on.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody. We're out of time.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the